What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of The Bullpen. Right now, I'm sitting across from somebody who I'm actually really fucking excited because I'm just going to tell you, I'm just going to give you a little sneak peek of what we're going to be doing. We're probably going to be diving into some of the craziest fucking stories you guys have ever heard in your entire lives, and I'm waiting to hear these stories. I've just been talking to you just a little bit before. I'm excited to dive in. This dude, I mean, if you were to sit next to this dude and be around this guy, one thing I want to describe this guy is like, this is a man's man right here. This is a dude who, you know, has been through the ringer. And I don't even want to call it the ringer because that doesn't even like really do it justice. You've been through fire, man, right? Literally. Now you're sitting here. You're doing everything you possibly can to make the biggest impact in the world, you know? So, dude, I'm excited to have you on, man.
I'm
Peter,
excited to be here.
Thanks for coming on, brother.
Nothing but good things about you, so I'm excited to be here, bro. This is there's levels to this stuff, so I'm shooting for this.
I'm shucks, man. I appreciate it. Well, let me just give everyone an idea of who Peter is, right? And by the way, is it Meyerhoff?
Meyerhoff.
Meyer, there we go. I just want to make sure I'm pronouncing this right? Peter Meyerhoff, very rare type. You could say he had the world in the palm of his hand as a kid from athletics. And if you see him, you'd understand that. Yeah, this dude's fucking yoked, right? From athletics to modeling. I don't know about that. No, it was and even starring in a movie as a child. Son of a bitch, you don't say, right? Once he hit high school, everything changed. He got involved with drugs, which started out with just weed, which it always does. Then came to hard drugs. His life spiraled downhill extremely fast and got arrested multiple times, from stealing cars to robbing houses. Son of a bitch. All right, well, I want to talk to you about that then, because I got a big American Bulldog for a reason, right?
Yeah, for sure.
He was sent to prison for 12 years at the age of 18 and didn't get out until after his 30th birthday. Being the alpha male, Peter he ended up getting swallowed up by prison politics, ended up being the shot caller inside a prison. When Peter got out of prison, he hit the streets running, ended up becoming successful, transferring his pains from prison to drive for success out in the world, made a couple $1 million in his first 5 years out, which is awesome because most people who get out of prison, they just can't wait to just like either go back in or get minimum wage. They're just trying to get anything they can, right?
Absolutely.
Let alone come out and take the world by the horns, right? So you moved on, and now you got a podcast that helps people, and as well as telling your story across all prisons, right? Jails across this entire country. Now owns a sober clothing line, which you just gave me a shirt for, and I appreciate that.
It's soft too, bro.
It is soft. I like it, yeah. So Peter's goal now is to motivate when he speaks and using his mental strength he acquired solidarity confinement to helping people get sober, change, at a massive rate, showing people what's really possible with the right drive and no excuses, right? So Peter, my man, I love reading over this stuff, okay? And everyone listens to this, they've probably heard me say this a lot because, like, this is just surface level shit, man, because the truth is there's a deep, deep, deep story that comes behind everything that just happened there. So, dude, like, what's your story, bro? Like, what the hell happened to you? You know, like what went down?
So I'll tell you, I growing up as a kid, so now I speak at even high schools too, because that's my greatest passion. You know,
really?
When I was a freshman in high school, I started hanging out with the seniors. My mom was a flight attendant. My parents split up, so I stayed with my mom, so I didn't have the supervision. And when you got an open house, you're in with the seniors in high school. So I started hanging out with them, and they had half-day schedules, and I kind of gave myself a half-day schedule as a freshman.
I get you. Now you're in athletics, though. Were you like one of those freshmen who was starting varsity kind of thing?
I would have been, but I'll tell you that what really ruined my life real quick in high school, and it's probably the biggest regret I have to this day because I was a stud athlete, played baseball, football, basketball. I used to box, and never even got to play one high school game because I got kicked out freshman year. So that's what I tell the kids when I speak back at high schools now. I said, even right now, like, you can make all the money you want in the world. You can switch careers. You'll never get back your childhood years, So I'm at peace with everything in my life that I've ever done except for what I did in high school,
Wow, interesting.
And, yeah, for sure. So I actually had, I chose to be very open about this now, but I actually had a girl make a fake sexual assault claim on me when I was a freshman in high school. My mom wasn't home, and me and my ex-best friend, what we would do, we weren't even driving then, sneak out, and her older brother dropped, it was Lindsay and Ashley, and dropped them off at my mom's house. He supplied us with the alcohol because he was the senior.
Okay.
We drink and hook up on a Friday night, do the same thing on a Saturday night, and then Sunday, she says I had sex while she was sleeping. To this day, I feel like she just got caught sneaking into her house or something and didn't even know what the hell to say. She was 15, I was 15. But it ruined my life, so I went from being like the kid in school to not being safe at school. And
really?
Yeah, and coming full circle, the robbery, not even a robbery, but the burglary I ended up doing was the dude that used to be my best friend that was there that night, because all he has to do is open his mouth. He knew what happened.
Sure.
But he didn't. Kids are scared to go against the grain, you know what I mean? And kids are so easily impressionable, and nobody wants to be alpha males in there, and they're all just followers, you know? So he followed along with this and didn't stand up because he probably didn't want to go against people. And that's the dude I ended up burglarizing in his house and went to prison for 12 years on that. So I went from like...
That's why you went to prison for 12 years, is the house, huh?
Yep.
Wow.
I got 12 years in prison for a non-dangerous theft charge. I had one of the worst sentencing cases in Arizona's history, and the judge since then has been banned from being a judge because he was too harsh on his sentences.
What the fuck?
They didn't let me out of prison though. I still sat there and did my 12 years.
What? Oh, okay. Oh, he was. They got rid of him while you had that sentence?
No, afterwards. After I went to prison, the judge got banned from being a judge because they said he was too harsh on all of his sentences.
Okay, so walk me through this. Okay, so you're in high school, you're a freshman, then you have this, but you didn't go to prison until you were about 18, right?
18 years old, yeah.
So it was about what happened in that 3-year span in between.
For sure. So that's when I started hanging out, because I had to drop out of school because I literally wasn't safe at school. Like the entire school was trying to jump me, and like I was like literally public enemy number one, you know. And I went from being the most popular kid in school to that, like the exact opposite.
Okay.
And then
this is Arizona, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I started hanging out with dudes that aren't in school, you know, and then I started hanging out with dudes that do hard drugs. So I went from barely smoking weed to doing crystal meth, ecstasy. I mean, smoking crack. I did all those drugs for the first time one weekend, and it was my first time doing everything. And
wait. You did all those drugs in one weekend?
Yeah, and that's what this crew that I hung out with, that was a normal thing for them. That's what they did. Like, they were full-on druggies, and they would just go around stealing shit, and they were drug addicts, and like, we're fucking losers, you know? But that's what I did, and I didn't know any better, and I wanted to give up on life. You know, I thought my life was over. Like, I had no idea what I was going to do. I just didn't care. I was not in a good spot, you know?
Can I ask you a deep question
Absolutely.
Then? How was your relationship with your father?
Father's really good.
Okay.
Yeah, he's sober too, so we're both sober. Me and my dad.
What about when you were growing up and during all this? Like, what was that like with your father? Because
we didn't have the closest, because my dad's just like me. He don't tolerate no shit, you know.
Okay.
So I just used it against him. I just wouldn't see him, and I'd stay at my mom's house, and he lived 1.5 miles down the street, but I wouldn't stay there because he wouldn't let me do what I wanted to do then, you know?
I mean, the statistics show that people who usually get into that kind of trouble at that early age usually had some form of absent father. So when you said your parents split, I'm curious if
I chose to make him an absent father, though.
Interesting.
He wanted to be in my life. And finally, at the end, he even told me, he literally had my brother beg me. He goes, I don't even care if he's on drugs. Just tell him to come home. I just miss my son.
So why was that? Why did you push him out so hard? What was it that drove you to push him out so hard, if you don't mind me asking?
I just felt like I didn't have a chance at life. You know, like once that happens, like you don't, like it just ruins everything, you know. And come to find out later down the road, she wouldn't take a lie detector test. I did. She recanted her statement, and then she ended up doing this to another dude years down the later, and she sent a dude to prison and then recanted her statement again. But this dude did 2 years in prison before he got out. Just a bad woman. I don't even know. I can't comprehend it, you know. But that's what happened. That's what full on ruined my life. So I went from like I had everything as a kid to being like, fuck my life. This sucks. I don't know what I'm gonna do. But I never thought I'd go to prison.
Well, here's the thing. So once bad things start happening to people, right? There's obviously two choices, right? There's the choice to like say, okay, this bad thing happened to me, and so I'm not going to let it happen to anybody else.
For sure.
Which we're going to get to in a sec. That's where you're at right now.
Yes.
But so, and I call this the hero versus the villain. And if you look at the hero and the villain, they actually have the exact same storyline. The hero and the villain, like if you look at a villain, you know, like they always have like a scar on their face, or like they walk with a limp or something. They went through something really hard in their life, and they take that and they say, the world hurt me, so I'm going to hurt them back.
For sure.
Right?
Which is what I was on.
Exactly. And then the hero says, the world hurt me, and I'm not going to let that happen to anybody else.
Absolutely.
So you almost have two sides of the exact same coin, of the exact same story, where you actually had, you know, shit happen to you, the world hurt you, and so then you ended up taking almost revenge on that.
For sure, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So kind of the same, like the world hurt me, so I'm going to hurt them back. Yeah. And it sounds like you kind of went on like a revenge tour.
Full-on rampage.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Which I can understand, by the way.
Yeah,
right?
I stole a Mercedes-Benz from the Mercedes dealership, brand new.
Oh, shit.
So this is back when Gone in 60 Seconds came out. Remember? And they said those Mercedes-Benz were unstealable because they had the red little laser cut keys. And I was just like, I want to steal one of those Mercedes.
I mean, you're old. No, I'm just kidding.
I am, for sure. Seriously.
Okay, so all right. So in high school, you get into a lot of trouble, right? On almost this revenge tour, steal a Mercedes, right? And, you know, sounds like there was a couple of, like, obviously burglary and shit, doing some hard drugs. So life's spiraling right now, right? You know, like not in sports, don't have a relationship with your father. That's a recipe for disaster.
For sure.
You know? So then bring me up to the point, what brought you up to the point of you know, like the burglarization of the house, like what was going through how did you feel in that moment? Like at least building up to that.
It was a normal thing for us. And like, I remember we were at my mom's house and she was out of town again. And my little brother and them were having like a party over there. And he was the kid was, his dad was the second highest paid annually dude in all of Arizona. Like he was the president and CEO of University of Phoenix colleges.
Oh.
Yeah, I think he made $59 million his last year there.
Okay.
Literally like that, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so big money. You know, and the kids are the most spoiled, rotten kids ever, like brand new tricked out Escalades when they're 15 years old.
This is the same one that was with you when that all happened.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Okay.
And they were just super, super spoiled. And my brother and them came back and they told us that they were out of town for a week and they had just burglarized the house. So what's crazy enough is like there was 10 kids involved in this burglary. The house already got burglarized. I didn't even make it out of that. I went to prison for 12 years. I stole a drill, a snowboard, some Jordan basketball shorts, and some Jordan sandals. I didn't even make it out of the garage. I'm on drugs. My buddies come down and like, we got all the jewelry, this and that. Let's go. We leave. Of course, I'm this big, tough, hard criminal now. So the cops try to question me. I'm not saying shit. I don't know what you're talking about. 8 of the other kids all say it was Peter. My friend that stole the jewelry was living at my mom's house, told the police where the jewelry was, told him that he was sleeping. I came home and told him I had just robbed the house.
What?
So there's 10 kids involved. I get 12 years. They just make an example out of me because I wouldn't work with the police.
Okay, wait. So what happened to them though?
One got 2.5 years in prison. Everybody else got jail and probation. I got 12 years for the same exact case.
Wait, what?
Literally.
How does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Wait, hang on. Okay, all right, so there's 10 kids involved in this robbery, right? All in high school?
Yep.
Son of a bitch. Holy shit. Okay, 10 kids involved in this robbery, all going and robbing, and only one of you ends up serving 12 years in prison.
I served 12, my co-defendant, and he even had 3 more felonies than me because he got caught selling their jewelry directly to pawn shops. So he had 3 more class 3 felonies, and he got 2.5 years. Everybody else just got jail.
So why? Why? Like, what happened?
My judge, and they just made an example of me for not working with them. You know, everybody else like kind of snitched and threw that like all on me, and they just threw the book at me. And they told me they were going to make an example out of me, and they did.
Okay, so this whole thing of snitching, right, and all that stuff, and telling the truth. So obviously, okay, like, you know, there's no honor among thieves or whatever. I don't know what they call it, right?
Yeah.
Or they know the whole thing, but like. Why not just say something? I mean, let's take it back to that moment, right? You got caught, right? Now you're sitting there. What did you owe them? Why were you so loyal to them to not say anything? Why not just speak up and just say what happened? Why not tell them? Because, I mean, did you know that they were speaking about you at the time?
No, I didn't find out till afterwards.
Okay, but even then, so walk me through this. This is something that I always don't get because they're always like, especially in criminal, like whenever it happens to criminal, it's almost like this code that you don't snitch.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Snitches get stitched, right? For sure, right? And that's obviously something that you had been spiraling into. So that's, again, you're the tough, hard criminal. You've been through this before, right?
For sure.
Why? Why not just say what fucking happened, right? Like, why hold on to it? What was the thought process there?
2 reasons. One, just like I talked about, everybody's so easily impressionable, and we were just brainwashed. I was brainwashed not to talk to the police. I was brainwashed, don't snitch, you know? And then on top of that...
You thought he was being honorable in
yeah, literally, because the stupid shit they tell you, you know? And then on top of that, the lifestyle I was living, I kind of figured I was going to end up in prison someday. And so if you're snitching right there and you go to prison, it's not safe. So I would, like, for 2 reasons, but...
So you were fully expecting that you were going to go to prison? Like, that was a thought process?
That or die, I didn't care either one, you know?
What? You were living your life with an expectation, I'm either going to die or go to prison.
I mean, I couldn't even go anywhere, you know? I was like, I'm from Ahwatukee, and, like, everybody in Ahwatukee was, like, wanted to kill me. Like, I didn't care about my life. I didn't give a shit, you know? And the lifestyle I was living, you see everybody going to prison. I was expecting to go to prison. If not, I was going to die. And I honestly didn't care about my life.
You never once thought, I can move, start over. You never had that thought process go through your mind. You just thought, I'm either going to go to prison or die, one of the two.
Never.
What?
Yeah.
Man, I'm just like, I wish I could talk to you as a kid. I'm like,
same.
So I get why you're talking to high
schoolers
now.
But here, bro, it's crazy.
Like, you can move, man.
Seriously, when I found God 6 months ago, it made my whole life make sense, though. You know, like, all that shit was part of the plan, bro, to get this, so I can have a story like mine to help fucking people. Because I have a real prison story, you know what I'm saying? And now I can help people, you know, because I didn't do time on a 1-yarder or 2-yard. You know, I did real slam down, maximum security, super max time, and I was completely institutionalized. I have an 8th grade education, so God put me through all that stuff so I can help people now.
Okay, now walk me through this, okay? 18 years old, you just get sentenced to 12 years in federal prison, right?
And I didn't look like this. I was state prison, but I was 6 foot, 144 pounds, and I got locked up.
Okay, so you're a skinny bean, right?
So I'm half me.
Okay.
I'm Hannah size.
Half your size. Yeah. Okay, so Now what's going through your head? So I really want to know, the second you got sentenced, how did you feel in that moment?
You know what's crazy? So I was crying during the sentencing, and then once he sentenced me, I had 3 whole rows of family there. You know, my nanny got up and she was screaming bloody murder, like, "Can I please hug my grandson because I'll be dead by the time he gets out?"
Was she?
And she's still around.
She is?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, awesome.
I got goosebumps just thinking about it. Yeah. And man, dude, it's I got back there, and I was more worried for my family and more than anything, you know, because I just felt bad that I put them through that shit. My little brother, you know, I remember I got back to the prison or the jail pod, and I just called him, and we sat on the phone for 15 minutes and got just a few words out. You know, we were just both bawling, and he was saying he's going to visit me every weekend. I just felt so bad I put my family through that, you know, because the life I was living, I didn't care about my life, but then I realized how much it affected my family and stuff. But you don't realize that when you're on drugs. You know, drugs numb you from feeling shit and all that stuff. So when you're actually sober and I'm in jail and I can see what I did, and I'm like, oh my God, now, because you don't just get a sentence. You know, my family got the 12-year prison sentence as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
You know, and I'm a mama's boy, bro. Like if I walk around the mall today, you can ask Ken, if I walk around the mall today, my mom still holds my hand. You know what I mean? Like I'm a full-on mama's boy. And
how was she? Because that was your grandma.
Oh my God,
how was your mom?
Crushed her, absolutely crushed her. Like still, you know, and she still can't believe I'm out of prison, you know. And I don't know if you saw my release video. We'll show you after. So when I got out, she was screaming bloody murder like someone was getting murdered. You know, I got out at solitary confinement after my last 9 or 10 months was straight slammed down. And, you know, I went away as a little baby, and I got out this full grown man, 264 pound, but this prison shot caller with no fucking idea what I was going to do. And I got out. All I wanted to do was get out of prison, you know, and I didn't even have a goal.
Yeah. So, I mean, that, dude, I'm glad you're talking about it, because that's the fucking truth, man. Is like, it's not just about you, and that's the entire fucking, dude, honestly, that's the message of an alpha.
Yeah.
And I want everyone to understand, like, that's why I called my business that, right?
Yeah.
I want people to understand something, because from my story and where I came from, it's not fucking about you. It's about the people around you and what your life, the effect your life has on them.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you bring that, because, like, dude, I'm just trying to think, if, like, I was a father and I saw my son, I don't get to see my son for 12 years.
Yeah.
You're
doing that 12 years with him. He's locked behind doors, but it still affects you the entire 12 years.
I suffer the 12 just as much as you do.
And sometimes it can, like, during the middle of it, it was harder on my family than it was on me.
Yeah.
And I say that because it kind of worked better for me, that I was like, I went in so young, because I always say I didn't just go to prison, I was raised in prison. So
interesting.
I didn't know this life was out here. So it was kind of easier for me. Like during the middle, it was cruising. You know, I was a shot caller. I had everything I wanted in prison. I didn't know you could have this life, or you could have a fucking man cave castle like you have. I'm serious. I didn't know any of that was possible. So it kind of worked out better for me. So like the middle part of my sentence, it was harder on my family than it even was on me. You know, I never thought about the streets. I literally thought I was just going to stay in there, and I didn't worry about getting out. I never thought I'd get out of prison.
I mean, it's literally sounds like your entire thought process was you were not able to, like, no one painted this picture of what your life could have been outside of that. Whether it was sports, whether it was modeling. By the way, I want to kind of like, what was this film you were in as a kid?
So I ended up not even getting a copy. It was a documentary about the pitcher Hideo Nomo that came over from the Dodgers.
Okay.
And I was like I was a star of the baseball team, and I was mad that there was a Japanese player coming over here, and I didn't know who he was. And I got paid for it, but I never even got a copy of the documentary.
That's funny. Okay, so you're starting the documentary film.
Yeah, I had like a modeling agent and stuff when I was 13, so she's the one that got me hooked up with this movie.
Really?
Yeah, I'm telling you, bro, I had it all as a fucking kid and ruined everything. And I'm proof that you can absolutely have everything in the world and fucking ruin it times 100 and build it right back up.
I'm just fascinated that like the picture, either whether obviously you're on drugs or whatever was happening, that the picture of like just what you could have done, like who you could have been, was never ever ran through your head.
Yeah.
Of like, no, like I'm going to prison or I'm gonna, die. Like, and even when you're in prison, you just sat and accepted, like, this is where I'm at.
Yeah.
It's like,
but here's the deal. I'm like, just like you would have been, people are like fascinated that I was a shotgun. Like, how'd you do that? You're an alpha, bro. You'd have done the same fucking thing. You might not have been a shotgun the entire state, but you would have been sitting at the same table as I am, because you just got to look at it like this. Are you going to spend 12 years just being a lame, or are you going to be an alpha male in there? And to be an alpha male in there, you got to be violent. You just have to do it.
Okay, so walk me through this now, okay? So now you're in prison, right? I'm sure it wasn't like that right off the bat. You come into prison. I want to just go. I'm just trying to pick all this stuff from your head and thought process of like, you go into prison for the first time, right? Now you're faced with the fucking fact of you're in there with murderers,
and
like
grown
ass men and freaky people.
Yes.
The worst of the worst. I mean,
Absolutely.
Let's be honest.
There's a ton of people in there that literally should never get out of prison because they do not belong on the streets. 100%.
So what's that like? You're in there with what's that like?
I'll tell you, I talked about this yesterday. Okay. So I remember hitting so when you go from transportation from like the central hub where they tell you what yard you're going to go to. And then we go to Tucson Complex my first time. And Tucson's a huge complex, so there's I think 7 yards in there, but it's all around a big fence, and then there's all multiple yards inside.
Okay, so there's different yards within this.
Yeah, there's like a 1 yard,
okay.
2 yards, and all that stuff. And I remember driving to the back or driving to the front, and you see everybody out there playing softball and basketball, and I was like, thank God I can do
like
this.
Like the Wolf of Wall Street.
Literally, I was like, okay, I can do this. Yeah.
Once a week. Okay.
And then they drop everybody off at all these places, and like me and a couple dudes are left, and then we go to the last yard, and there's not a single soul walking on there, and I'm like, and they're like Meyerhoff, and I'm like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. And I remember walking out there, and I'm like, holy shit. And I hit the first pod I go to, you know, and they little run the rules down to you. And you know why they call it a sucker punch?
No.
Because you're the sucker if you get punched. And they're like, so if you even think you're going to get into it with anybody, you just take off on them. And I'm like, we can do that in prison? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, all right, cool. So, because I used to box. So like, thank God I had that. And I remember walking after dinner that night, or they call it chow. And I remember walking the yard, and I was like thinking, I'm like, nobody even notices me. I'm a full-on nobody. Like, how am I going to spend 12 years like this? You know, because when you're alpha male, you like attention. Like, people try to front that they don't, but everybody wants attention, you know? And I ended up, they thought I was like, come to find out, they thought I was kind of gay. I was like too much of a pretty boy. I had long blonde hair. And somebody made some comment to me about that, and I was like, I can scrap, bro. You're crazy.
All right. So now we got to, all right. So if they think you're gay in prison, then that it's just going to.
Then I'm like, let me show you guys I'm not.
Okay, please tell me that did not open up a can of worms.
No.
You had like, you know, what do they call them? Fresas or whatever coming after you? I don't know. You know, like so they wanted you to hold their pocket or something?
Yeah, no, for sure. So I make it a point. I'm like, all right, I'm going to show these dudes I'm at least tough, right?
Yeah.
And I end up beating up the dude that runs my building, and he's twice my size. I mean, he's probably my size right now, but I was, 160 pounds back then, so he was literally twice my size. And I used his own rule against him. You know, he started talking some shit to me, and then he turned around to pull a dip out of his mouth, and I just clocked him. I was on him and beat the living shit out of this dude. And then we get locked down for a day, and then you go out to chow the next day. And now the next time I go out to chow, all these OGs on the yard are like, "What up, youngster? I heard what you did." And I was like, something clicked on me. I was like, this is where I got it now, So I used all the anger and all I was mad at God. I didn't know how the hell God gave me a 12-year prison sentence. So I just used all that for such negative shit and just tried to be like the most gangster, violent dude, so people at least like notice me, and I used it for all the bad things. But that's how I started. That's how I started ending up being a shot caller, bro. Just like literally fucking whooping dudes.
Okay, that term you keep throwing out. So shot caller, right? What exactly do you mean by that? What is that? What is the definition of that?
There's a dude in every yard that runs the yard, and his say goes, whatever, and that's the shot caller. Okay. So that's what I was.
So you were a shot caller on a prison yard full of murderers.
Literally. And I didn't just go to a prison yard. Like at the end of my sentence, I went to the worst of the worst of the worst. Like
you weren't playing softball. And
no, there's no softball. There's no bats there.
Yeah,
there's none of that stuff. And there's little tiny ass rec fields, and even the 4 yards. 4 yards are where all the violence is at in Arizona, because when you're in maximum security, it's 24-hour day lockdown. It's not even 23-hour day lockdown. You never leave your cell. You'll never touch another human being. You're slamming that cell all day long, 24 hours a day. When you go to the 4 yards, that's when people get out of max, and that's when it's 23-hour day lockdown. You get wrecked 3 days a week. But that's when like all the gangsters come from maximum security, and then you can actually get at each other. So like the 4 yards are the most violent. And then before you know it, I got kicked off all the 4 yards. So then they sent you to Maury, because that's where they sent all the gangsters. Like, if you get in trouble on another 4 yard, they're like, oh, you think you're fucking big and bad? We're going to send you to Maury and see how it happens. I ended up running Maury when I was 25 years old. And I was saying this yesterday, sometimes I used to literally walk to chow and I'd see who I was around. I'm like, how the fuck am I running this yard with these dudes that are here, But that's how it was, So yeah, I ended up just running shit everywhere until I got out when I was a month after I turned 30 years old. Thank God I got thrown in the hole for solitary like my last 9 months, and I was able to, because I used drugs my whole time in prison too.
You did?
That's what I share about too, is I did nothing positive my entire 12 years in prison. Not one thing positive. Even when I got college classes, I made the teacher's aide fill me out and pass me in the classes that I never did the work on.
You had college classes?
You can do like on like the TV and stuff. So they're like correspondence courses.
What?
Yeah, but I didn't even do them. That's how it is. Like when you're a shot call, you literally make the teacher's aide, who's a white boy, give me A's, pass my classes.
You're a white boy.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So that's what they do. And they passed all my classes. I never even did them. So I did nothing positive with my 12 years.
Did you get a college degree or like an associate's?
No, I got like some little like maintenance buildings thing through Central Arizona College or something like that. I don't even know what it is. Yeah.
So they have college stuff, and obviously they're trying to promote education, right? There's stuff they're trying to do to like help.
And that's a rare thing too, because a lot of those higher ups, they don't even have that. Like Max, they have none of that stuff. Yeah, that was like a rare time when I was at a 3 yard for a little bit, which is 3 yards, they still have lifers there. Like I spent 12 years, I never was on an open yard in my entire 12 years.
Talk to me about a lifer.
Yeah.
Because we kind of touched on this before we came in, right? Talking about lifers. What's the deal with, being around a lifer? What's that? Like, what's the hype of being around lifers?
They're just the real deal, man. Like a lot of them, I mean, there's dudes in there on those yards, bro, that like, even if you're going to get in a fist fight over basketball, they don't even want to fight. They'll literally just stab you. Like they're never getting out of prison. They don't give a shit. Like, and they'd rather just stab you or even get in I had them literally tell me verbatim, they're like, I'm too old to fight. I'm just going to stab you if someone says something crazy to me. They have no release date. Why not? All they do is they get thrown in the solitary for a year and they come right back to the yard.
Okay, so so it's more of a thing of being around lifers that they're more dangerous,
yeah,
right?
For sure.
Because they have nothing to lose.
They have no release date. They can't do anything to you.
Dude, what's the point of? Can we be honest here? What is the point?
I wouldn't. I'm full on aware of that, and there's not a chance I would do it. If I went back, I would kill myself. If I went back for a day. I can't do another hour.
Well, that's if you have that is now your life. Mm-hmm. What's the point of living?
I don't understand it.
I really want to know.
I agree. I agree.
Is it just?
I don't know. There's no way I would do it. There's nothing to live for in there. I don't understand how they do it. So like mad props on how they do it. I mean, clearly they're even more mentally strong than I am, but I wouldn't do it.
Oh,
you have nothing to live for.
Oh, mentally strong. I don't know if I'd call them mentally strong at that point.
Or
I think
psychotic.
Or
even.
yeah, psychotic and just totally broken down. They're just basically like a robot at this point, right?
Absolutely, for sure.
Wow. Okay. So all right. So you go 12 years. What was the hardest part of being in prison? What was the hardest time period that you went through?
That very end. Honestly,
interesting.
My last year or two was the toughest.
Why?
For one, it's because by that time I was so institutionalized, and it's rough when you're a shot caller in there because like my last 2.5 years, I was moved 16 times, 16 different prisons or solitary confinement.
Your last, how long?
2.5 years.
Okay, so within 2.5 years, you were moved 16 times.
Because then when you have this, all I strive for, because I always had to overcompensate, because I was from Ahwatukee. I wasn't a gangbanger. Like a lot of those dudes, like, just like we say, like I was headed for prison, like they knew from the time they were 5, they were going to prison. Like they grew up like with their moms or prostitutes. Like some of the dudes have the most unfathomable, horrible stories. Your heart goes out for them, but like they were headed for prison. I wasn't headed for prison.
Well, I mean, like your thought process, you were planning on going to prison. Their thought process, they were planning on prison. Like, yeah. That's a thought process that someone's living with right now is like, I'm going to end up prison. They just accept it. For sure. And you're definitely manifesting that shit at that point, right?
Yeah. Okay. So I always overcompensated because I wanted to fit in with those guys. So I always wanted to be like, when I was in prison, I strived to be like, when Meyerhoff hit the yard, I wanted the deputy wardens and all the cops and everything to be like, holy shit, Meyerhoff's here. Fucking let's watch out, And by the time I finally got there, my last 2.5 years, it was a fucking nightmare because anytime a white boy gets done up or whooped, then they just throw you in the hole for calling a shot on them, and then you go sit in the hole for another month, then you go to another yard, and then the next time something that happens, they throw you in another hole, so you just get bounced around. And I'm doing that, and now I'm like supposed to be going home in a year or two, and I'm like, I don't even have a plan. You know what I mean? I didn't think of getting out.
Don't they extend your time if you like are causing like doing stuff like that in prison?
They did, yeah. Because you do 85% in Arizona, and then you get even an extra 6-month kick out. So technically on a 12-year sentence, I should have served 9 years and 9 months. I served 11 years and 7 months. Oh. So I served almost the full 12.
So, and that was because of like continually making those decisions within.
Yeah, they'll do predator packets on you. So when the shot goes in, it's called a predator packet, which is like they send you back to maximum security and they say that you're literally a predator on the yard and the yard is not safe with you on the yard. So they throw you in solitary.
Okay,
all right. So 4 of those done on me.
Okay, so what? Okay, did like the last year you say was the hardest? Why? Because you realize you're now finally getting out, and you finally just wanted to start cleaning it up, stop doing all the shit.
I'm scared to get out, but I can't get off drugs because I'm strung out on drugs in prison.
How are you getting drugs in prison? This is so fascinating.
Oh, there's more drugs, and there's as much drugs in prison as there's on the streets. You could find meth and heroin and weed any day you want on the yard.
Yeah. Okay.
Cops bring it in. People bring it in through visits.
Cops are bringing it in. Mm-hmm. Son of a bitch.
I was in a relationship with a corrections officer there. Not a relationship, but like I was with a CO in there and just to bring drugs into me.
Really?
Cell phones, everything. They don't make money. So when you could throw $1,000 at them to bring you a cell phone and that's their 2-week paycheck.
Well, where are you getting the money?
From selling drugs in prison.
Oh my gosh.
Literally.
It's a little economy in there. What the fuck?
You have to do it. So when you're running a yard in there, you have to sell drugs. You have to like make money for the Aryan Brotherhood that's slammed down in Supermax, because the Aryan Brotherhood are the ones that call the shots. So I don't know if you've seen the movie Shot Caller. Like I was a shot caller on the yard, but I was always running it for somebody, the dudes that are in Supermax and are never getting out of there. And those are like dudes that are like the real deal. And those are dudes that are in single cell, solitary confinement, Supermax for the rest of their lives. They never get out of there.
So why listen to them if they're always, like...
Because they could write a letter and have me killed even if they want in 2 seconds.
A letter?
Yeah.
Why do they have so much power if they're just stuck in a fucking cell?
To be honest, it's almost a respect thing. So a lot of people don't know this.
A respect thing?
Back in the 80s or 90s, white boys were targets in Arizona prison system. That's when the Aryan Brotherhood formed. Because we used to get, when they'd get their store sacks, white boys were getting literally raped and their store sacks stolen from brothers in there. So they formed the Aryan Brotherhood just to rise up against that and like.
So it's just this gang.
So these dudes, these dudes like risked their lives, like literally back in the day, like literally knife fights, and people were dying over this. So like it's just a respect thing. And then when they come up, they were the ones that like. When I was able to get a store sack, a commissary store sack, and walk it back to my cell, the reason I was able to do that is because of what they did back in the day. So you can't go against them. It is what it is. And they literally, from a supermax cell, they are the real shot callers. You know, I'm just the dude on the yard that's running the yard and the shot caller on the yard.
Interesting.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that.
I have no idea. Jeez, that's like this. I mean,
it's fascinating. Trust me, I'm even fascinated with prisons still, and I spent half my life there. You know.
Yeah. I mean, let me ask you this: do you think? Because I've always wondered this. The people who are lifers or the people who are like in there for the longest time, I feel like they cause the most problems because they run show, right?
It's the exact opposite.
Is it?
Yeah. You know why?
Why?
Because that's their home, bro. They don't want drama there. The people that cause all the shit are the youngsters that are only in there for a little bit of time, and it's not their home. Like lifers, that's the one thing. The lifers want a smooth time. They don't want the drama. They don't want the yard locked down. So like they're the ones that are actually kind of the more smooth sailing people. You know, that's why they're saying if some youngster's gonna start shit with me, because I'll just fucking kill that dude. I'm not doing that shit.
Interesting.
Yeah. They look at it like it's their home, you know, and the youngsters, they know they're just staying there for a little bit. Like you call it your home. You know, I live here, so they don't want the drama there.
Wow.
Crazy, huh?
Jeez almighty. Okay. All right, okay. How old are you right now?
I'm 37.
Okay, so walk me through this, right? So now it's time to get out. Okay. 12 years you've just been doing nothing but honestly, you've been doing drugs still, right?
Yeah.
You've been, getting in fights and like
nonstop.
Nonstop. Now it's time to get out and to see your family. Just to walk me through that. Go ahead.
So let me show you, just to show you how fucked up my mind was when I got out. Like when they finally let me release, and like I said, I got released from solitary confinement. My last 9 months, I didn't touch a person, was in the same single cell for 9 months straight. And I finally get out. And you know what's crazy is the cops are so done with me. I was begging them at my cell. I was like, yo, let me back out on the yard for a little bit. I'm like, I'm going home. I'm like, you can't expect me to get out of prison after 12 years in solitary confinement and make it on the streets, institutionalized like that. And you know what they told me? They're like, we're done with you in here. We're going to let their streets have their luck with you. They literally told me that. They're done with you. Have at it with the street.
You're telling me you wanted to stay in?
No, I wanted to get out on the yard. I'm saying, let me get out on the yard so I get some access, because it just makes you more institutionalized being in solitary confinement, not being around another human being.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
And they told me they're done with me. They're like, we're going to let the streets have their luck with you. So I get out with that, and I get out as a full-on from the hole. And I remember, this is a crazy story. So they hand you all your paperwork when you get out on the yard. You know, I just saw my family. And the last gate you have to go through, they give you your paperwork, and I snatched it out of my dad's hand because there was a paperclip on it. And the paperclip's like gold in the hole. So I'm getting out of prison, literally trying to steal a paperclip off a piece of paper with my family in the car. And I do, and I look back to tell my mom, like I'm excited I just got a paperclip. And I look at her and she's like, and I was like, oh my God, I don't even need this anymore. So I'm getting out of prison, excited about just snagging a paperclip off my paperwork with no idea what's ahead for me. All I know is that I'm so excited I'm not in prison anymore. But I have no idea. Like I said, I thought the epitome of a success story for my situation was getting a construction job somewhere, making minimum wage, and have a sober life somehow, but a boring life.
That was your plan.
That was the dream. I'm like, if I make it, that's making it for me.
Go get a construction job.
Making minimum wage, but I'm not in prison.
Not in prison.
Yep.
And getting sober.
Yeah, and I thought I'd have a boring ass sober life where they hang out with a bunch of old boring dudes or something, and that's what I strive for.
Every now and
that's
then.
what I strive for.
Okay. So walk me through. So then what changed? Because you're out.
Yeah.
That's your plan. What changed to where you are now? Because what you're doing now, I just want to make sure everyone remembers this. You are now trying to promote education in every single prison system across this country and jail system. You're speaking at high schools. You're trying to, again, going back to the thing, you're trying to make sure anyone who's gone through what you had to go through doesn't have to go through that again. Why? Why not just go get, because there's plenty of construction jobs right now.
Yeah.
A lot of shit's being built. Why not just go do that? Like, what changed? What happened?
I think I finally, you know what's crazy is when I first, so I got in the car business, and when I first got my first paycheck, you know, I went from that to my first month in the car business, I made $10,000.
Your first month?
First month, I was top salesperson there. And I remember when I got that, I literally got that
check. Did you sell a Mercedes?
No. No, it was at a Kia store. Okay. I always shout out to Josh Spencer, the only guy that ever took a chance on me in my life, dude.
Awesome.
So big ups to Josh Spencer. And I got that check and I saw the amount of money with it. I think my bonus check was like $7,000 after tax or something like this. And a light went off in my head. I was like, oh my God, I can fucking do this now, you know? So I switched my drug and money addiction with making a money addiction, you know? And then, so then I started making, you know, I made $100,000 a year my first year working, and then $200,000, $300,000. And then after a while, like, you know, when you have all the toys, I don't have toys like you, bro, but like I had toys for my lifestyle, no Lambos and stuff. But like, you know, I bought 12 cars. I bought a brand new Raptor off the showroom floor when I was still on parole, you know, and tricked. Yeah. So I bought all the toys, all the clothes, all the golf trips, you know, and
once you get a taste for that lifestyle, then you're like,
seriously.
what the hell was I thinking?
Seriously. So then, I mean, I live in a custom home now, you know, and the money and that stuff didn't do it for me anymore, you know? So I wanted to help people, and I wanted to, like, I thought I was gonna have a boring life sober. And now, you know, I got almost 6 years sober now, and I've had the most fun I've ever had in my life. So I wanted to show people that it's not boring being sober. And no matter that you've been to prison for 12 years or 2 years or 3 years, or if you're a convicted felon or you're covered in tattoos. I was a finance manager at a major dealership in Scottsdale, Arizona. I have a neck tattoo, and I'm covered in prison tattoos. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just to show if you think you can't do anything. So now I just want people to show them that. And I want, with the curriculum, I want people to start game planning for the streets before they get out there. Because imagine how much farther ahead I would be if I would actually plan for the streets. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I want to do. And I want to tell people when they're in prison that they're not in a box.
Yeah.
The only time you're in a box is if you put yourself in a fucking box. Because you can literally do anything you want in the world. And seriously, you can, especially nowadays. With technology and social media and stuff like that, anybody in the world can do anything they want. And if they don't, they just choose not to put in the work to do it.
Agreed. My good friend Nick Santonastasso, have you ever met him?
Yes, just FaceTimed him a few weeks ago.
One of the best dudes you're ever going to meet. And the way he says it is just perfect. He says the biggest disability is a bad mindset.
Absolutely. He's the fucking man,
He
bro.
is the man. He's here in Utah, actually living, you know, and I'm grateful to be around him. I love that dude. Shout out to Nick.
Yeah, shout out to Nick DeSanto.
Yeah, no, he's awesome. No, so Nick, so I'm curious now, because, okay, so you're making money. Was it seeing the new lifestyle that you could have that made you want to help others?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's
I
what it
wanted
was.
to show them they could have this. I didn't think it was possible. I honestly didn't think, no joke, I thought this was literally impossible to do what I did. And then once I did it, I want to go back and show them it's possible, you know? So like when I go speak at orientations now, like when you get out of prison in Arizona, they do these big orientations, which is like you're on parole, the parole officers, it's a big room, and they talk to everybody and they say, this is what you have to do, here's your rules, this and all that. And then I go speak at the very end, you know, like a lot of them literally know the name Chappie, but have never even heard of me. But and it's not cool whatsoever. It's the truth though. Like Chappie is a legendary name in the Arizona prison system. So
and that was
that's my nickname. So when I go there, and the director of parole introduced me as my good friend Chappie, and a lot of you guys probably know the name Chappie, but here he is. And then they see me there wearing a sober t-shirt talking to them, and they're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know? And I'm like, this is possible. You know what I mean? You can do anything you want. Don't go just try and get a construction job if that's not what you want to do. You know what I mean? Go get a job in culinary if you want to do that, or anything, you know? And that's the greatest thing, you know, when I get pulled over afterwards and they're like talking to me, he's like, you know what's crazy, man? He's like, all I thought I could do was construction, something like that. But he goes, that's what made me think the last guy that talked to was culinary. He goes, but I always want to get into culinary. He goes, you just saying that's going to make me go try to do the culinary stuff. I'm like, that's what I want. But we're not tied into anything we don't want to, you know?
Yeah.
I hang out with a bunch of dudes that are like felons, convicted felons, well, they're all multimillionaires now, you know what I mean? It doesn't mean shit. People change, you know? The coolest shit is fucking ruining your life and then changing and becoming a successful person and then helping others and showing them the way. That's the real grown man shit in this world.
That's the real alpha shit right there.
For
That's
sure.
grown man shit.
Yeah,
right
so that's
there.
all I want to be on, bro. I'm gonna save fucking millions of lives and help people, inspire people to know that they can do anything they want if they put the work in.
Damn straight.
And
Fuck
you can
yeah,
ask
dude.
Hannah
That's
how
what I
much.
love.
I mean, I drive her crazy, bro. Like I'm like 24/7.
No, that's not true, right, Anna?
24/7 all day and just go. But I have like, I just use like when I was in those maximum security prison cells, and I would literally remember looking out the bars just thinking like, give me a chance and I'm going to just do it, you know? So that's why I go so hard out here now, because I spent so many years just dreaming about having these opportunities, you know? Like just Brad Lee says, you know, you wake up every morning, you have a fresh shot to do anything you fucking want. So
shout out to Brad, by the way.
Shout out to Bradley, yeah. So if you don't do what you love to do or what you want to do, that's your problem. You know what I mean? And you can. And here's the deal to anybody listening, even if you haven't done what you wanted because you've been scared to take a fucking chance, start tomorrow. Literally start tomorrow. Every day you have a new chance to do anything you want.
Amen, dude. That's what I'm talking about.
You know?
That's the shit right
Seriously,
there, man.
it is.
Oh, dude, I love it. You know what's I love it. It's just so fascinating about what you're saying. I've literally said this, and you know who believes as well as Brad, right?
Yeah.
And I know you believe this. One of the best things you could ever teach somebody, especially someone in a bad situation. Like I've thought about this over and over again. Someone who grows up in an awful situation. Like we're talking about, they grow up, mom's a prostitute, right? Or they're growing up in the ghetto, right?
Yeah.
Or they're just growing up in the worst of situations. You know what the best skill set any of them can learn is in order to get out, in order to actually realize that they are in control of their life? The best way to realize how much control you have over your life is sales.
Absolutely. 100%.
Because you went into sales right after and you saw when you put in the work, when you developed a skill set, you got paid for it. There's no better. And guess what? You were already in sales.
Yes.
You just happen to be selling drugs and the shit that's going to get you in trouble.
You're selling, and that's why I say when I speak at Pro, I said, we're all slanging drugs, running game on corrections officers in there. I said, if you put a fucking quarter of that into selling something that's legit and legal, you're going to kill them. That's what I did.
Yeah.
And it's like, we would run game 24 hours a day and they're all fucking day long. Here, you don't even have to.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh, no, that's the thing is like, you're not only, this thing, not only are you selling the products, by the way, you're managing teams and you're making sure they're selling, you're making sure they bring the money back, you're making sure you're training them on how to do it, telling them what to do and what not to do. Just do that in fucking sales and look how much money you make. Look at the life you'll have.
And that's what I tell other people too, is like if they're worried about being convicted felons or something like that, sales, they'll take chances on if you can sell. So
they don't care.
When you're doing your little interview, if you're good at sales, sell yourself to the guy that's going to hire you.
That's right.
That's what I did.
Sales, I've always said that sales is communication. Sales is problem solving. Sales is the most powerful skills in the world because it'll never fucking leave you.
Ever.
Doesn't matter what happens in the economy. Doesn't matter where you're at. Doesn't matter what your situation is. If you're good at sales, you'll make money. And that could be in a bad situation, whether it's drugs, or it could be in a really good situation. Maybe you're a realtor. Maybe you're selling cars. Maybe you're doing life insurance. Maybe whatever. Who cares? If you're sales, you can actually.
You'll never run out of shit to sell.
Exactly. It's the greatest form of you eat what you kill.
Absolutely.
The life is on your shoulders and yours alone. And guess what? That's empowering as shit. And I've always said this. I'm like, man, all these kids out there who are struggling, they're in the game. They don't see it. And that's why I'm listening. I'm like, no, you had no idea of the way you could have gotten out. Like there's no thought process to what you could have done. I'm like, let me just show you a couple things, man. Let me show you how to make a $10,000 a month paycheck just like that.
Yes.
Like it's not that hard. If you get some courage inside of you and go out and have a conversation with somebody, guess what, motherfucker? You can make some money.
Yes.
And then guess what? You have money. You have a new life. Just like what you've experienced.
And the greatest thing about it too is like, my problem was like when I was like, even when I was in rehabs when I was younger, or like when you're in prison, like you have dudes that come try and teach these class or whatever, and it's like they didn't live that life. So people, and here's the one thing that a lot of people will learn, and some dudes will learn this the hard way, is people in prison, they only listen to people that feel like they've walked their footsteps. You know what I'm saying? So if you've only done a little bit of prison time, or you've never done drugs and you're trying to talk about that, we ain't gonna listen to you. You know what I'm saying? But when I can go back and people know my fucking name and know all the shit I've been through, and there's not a person in prison that can say they did something that I didn't do unless they full and just like murdered someone in front of a cop. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I can show that I did all that stuff, and I literally shut that part of my brain off and completely rewired my brain to be a productive member of society, and then try to help people. Because now that they say that I lived that life, you can't say I didn't. And I lived the life even worse than a lot of these dudes did. And look what I did with my life now. So why not do it yourself?
Yeah. Damn straight, dude. Dude, fuck yeah. So what's the next step? What's the goal? Where are you heading?
Right now, so I got my apps being developed. My podcast is in the prisons and jails, and I got these apps being developed right now. There's going to be 2 different apps. So one is going to be an app directly for the prisons and jails, where they're going to have like mentorship stuff with me, and I'm going to be there speaking it, teaching them their own curriculum on what it took to be successful, and start preparing for. I'm a huge sales advocate, so that's what I want to get. So I'm going to teach all these things is get into fucking sales, get into sales.
Damn straight.
And then on top of that, once they get out of there, now they're going to transfer over to my other app, which is a Sober Life app that they're going to have on the streets. So it's going to have, and I'm going to get my boys like Tommy Vext. Shout out to Tommy Vext to leave like testimonies, but like sober celebrities leave testimonies on it to show like sober life isn't fucking boring, dude. I have the coolest life in the damn world, bro, and I haven't taken a sip of alcohol or anything in almost 6 years. You know what I mean? I live, my life's like a joke now. Like every day I wake up and I can't believe this is my life, you know, and I want other people to know that and have that same feeling I have now.
Dude, I love that, man. That's exciting shit, bro. Well, if there's one thing you want to leave our audience with, one message of this whole thing, what would you want to leave them with, man?
I would say that no matter how, and I'll take this from Tommy Vext, you know, like if you're going through a tough time right now, it's because you are tough. You know, and if you're struggling right now, it's because God wants you to struggle, because you're going to help the next person once you get through that situation. Keep fighting. That's the only thing I ever did in my life, right, was I kept fighting. You know, like if it's a hard time, just keep fucking fighting. And then when you go, you're going to have more equipment and armor on you to where you can help the next man go through your same situation, show him how you did it. And then not to mention that, you're going to feel so unbelievable that the fact that you accomplished something you didn't think you had. Just like Hannah, I had her skiing, and we took her down it was her first day skiing, and I took her down Blues, and she gets to the top, she's like, there's no fucking way I could do that. And I'm like, well, we're doing it. There's only blues here to
There's
get
only
down.
one way down.
And then she gets down to the bottom, and then she looks back up. I'm like, look at that fucking hill you just went down. And she's like, holy shit. So you can do it. Just do it.
I love that, dude. Thanks for coming on, brother.
Thank you for having me,
Traveling
man.
all the way out here, man. I'm excited to dude. I'm excited to put this episode out, man.
Yeah, same.
Some good stuff, guys. Make sure you go follow this dude. And if you've got somebody who needs some fucking help, make sure you send this dude like to them. Make sure you send this profile, because what this dude, he's been through it. Like the difference here is you've been there.
Yeah.
You've been there. You've done that. And it's time for people to listen up, right?
Absolutely.
So what's the best way people can get in touch with you? Peter Meyerhoff.
Yeah, I got a website.
Instagram.
Peter Meyerhoff.
Meyerhoff, excuse me. Yeah,
no, it's all good. PeterMeyerhoff.com, Meyerhoff.
Okay, and we'll link all this in the bio as well.
Yeah, my IG is Peter_Meyerhoff.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
That's it, bro.
Big things coming, man.
My podcast, Roll Call with Chappie, CHAPPY though. And Roll Call with Chappie, bro.
Go tune in to Roll Call with
on
Chappie.
the last episode.
Did
so,
you?
yeah, Tommy
That's
just released
awesome.
last Thursday.
Very cool. Roll Call with Chappie. Make sure you guys stay tuned. Big things coming from this guy.
Same to you, bro.
Thanks
I
for coming
appreciate
on.
you having me. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, man.